What's going on, guys? Today, my mind is completely blown by a plugin called Quadra. It is super cool. I'm not even gonna hype it, just gonna get into it. This video did end up being pretty long, so it's actually going to be a 3-part series. So today I am releasing the intro, which is just talking about what Quadra is and why I think it's cool. The second video is going to be about making a patch. I'll release that tomorrow. And then the video after that will be making an entire song with Quadra. This is a really cool plugin. Lot to talk about. Let's just get right into it. So this is Quadra synth. You'll notice it's blown up big. Cherry Audio always just has a really easily scalable GUI, which I love, especially when I'm making videos like this. First and foremost, you're probably looking at this going, what the heck is with these green and blue buttons? This synthesizer is based off of an old synth, I believe from the 70s. Cherry Audio goes into length explaining about the original synth and their inspirations for recreating it in the user manual. Their user manuals are always really fun because they talk about all the stupid things that were in these synths and why they did it and why Cherry Audio has improved on it. Regardless, these buttons in the original one were to save these preset values. It was this really janky functionality. It was pretty stupid. So they kept this button look, but now these buttons, as you see these, they're just going to disable and enable different effects and stuff in here. So this is how you kind of just change some of the parameters. Like here you see us changing LFO waves and such. So that's just what these buttons are for. To sum it up, Quadra, 4. So there's 4 elements within the synthesizer. So you see we have a bass section. Watch this. Grab my better scrolling mouse. So you see we got a bass section, strings, poly synthesizer, and all the way to the right, we have a lead synthesizer. And I zoomed in from this focus button. They have the sweet focus button. So if you're on a smaller screen, you can zoom in and focus. So the core of this is that there's 4 different sounds: bass, strings, poly synth, lead synth. And in each one, you can set the keyboard range. So you'll see here, we have these range buttons. Let's focus in again. We have these range buttons here. So you can press learn, press your low note, and then press your high note. And now your bass will just play within that note range. And you can do this across all 4 sounds, which means that you can have layered patches where you can play a bass and some strings down low, and then maybe your leads up high and poly, you're playing some chords in the middle. Let me show you an example of how this splits thing works with one of their presets that so far is my favorite, called Marathons. You'll see on our ranges here, bass 0 to 60, strings all the way through. Poly synth kind of plays mids, and then the lead kind of plays lower mids. Well, high mids, low, whatever. I'm just gonna play. It's just kind of fun, and that was kind of sloppy, but you get the idea. There's some bass down there. These sweet little trills here, which they have trills in here, which is cool. We'll talk about that in a sec. Then up here we have some poly sounds. And then lead just kind of doing its thing. I love having that split keyboard functionality. I am obsessed with stuff like that. And so that's super cool that they incorporated this into here, and it's just really easy to turn on and off. There's a lot of features under the hood, but just kind of know that there's generally this output mixer that controls bass, strings, poly, lead, and you can kind of click these buttons to mute the different sections, change your mixer here. From the mixer, everything goes into this bottom section here, which is all your effects stuff. So you have a phase shifter, chorus flanger, echo, reverb, and then the arpeggiator, which only applies actually to the lead synth. And then Bender here just dictates what applies to your pitch wheel. So you can change VCFs of poly and lead, and you can change the pitch of any of them with your pitch wheel. So you can adjust what's impacted by that and how much it's impacted in semitones, which is pretty cool. Also see here we have some aftertouch functionality as well. So if you're taking something something with aftertouch on it, here's a launch pad. See, we can get some pitch depth based on that. So because we basically have 4 separate kinds of synthesizers in one, it lets you do a lot of building just in one space. And the sound is just super rad. I like the sound. And I know that each section, as you can see, the bass has very limited functionality to it. You just only have a decay and resonance for the electric bass. Then you have let me focus again. Then you have a string bass volume, which controls the volume of the string section, which as you can see just goes straight to the strings. So this is just exclusively for strings. So the bass, only has decay and resonance adjustments, and then just, how many feet it is. So each section is pretty limited. The strings, just low EQ, high EQ, attack and release time, again, how many feet it's playing, what the range is. So there's not a crazy amount of features in each section. The most built out are the poly section. You got, your ADSR and your standard cutoffs, basic stuff you'd see in just a synthesizer. And same with lead synth. You got ADSR, VCF cutoff. You can control VCO1 range of the second one, so you can detune your two lead oscillators from each other, have portamento for each one, and some fun stuff. So they do have a trill feature in here, which is pretty fun. So what's cool about this trill mode is we can take something like our lead sound, just a nice basic lead sound. We can press this button here to turn on trill, which then deals with this trill interval. And the trill interval is when you play a note, it'll play this plus the note you play plus a trill. So in this one, it'll be 2 semitones up, and it'll just go back and forth. So you can go up to like an octave. So it just is kind of a fun little feature. There's a ton of ways you can sound design with this. They even have some examples in their instruction manual. And that Marathons plugin you heard earlier also uses the trill setting as well. So there's some fun stuff you can do with the trill. But outside of the trill, you kind of just have some basic lead synthesizer functionality. So there's nothing really it's everything you kind of expect to see here, note priorities, tuning the VCOs, choosing your waveforms of each one. You click these buttons to change your waveforms. And where's the modulation coming from for pulse width and the VCF, so the filter. You can change those between ADSR and LFO for both of those. And you'll see that button kind of throughout. So it's really easy to use and just design stuff in each section, and really it shines when kind of everything is being sort of played together. And it really opens up a ton of just different options for just creating just some fun sounds in single patches. Now, I know part of you is probably thinking, well, what's the benefit of having all my sounds in one plugin? Isn't that going to make it hard to mix and do stuff in post? Well, Cherry Audio has actually thought about this, and they've actually pulled something which the original Quadra had, which was a multi-output. So you could actually output your bass, strings, poly, and lead to different audio channels. So here in Ableton, for example, I have just these 4 audio tracks set up, and you can set the audio from Quadra, and then you'll see here you have output 2, 3, 4, 5, which relates to each one of the different instruments within Quadra. And so when you do this, you can actually send each instrument to its own channel. So if you wanted to add some kind of effects to just a certain instrument of it, you can. So now if I play something, here I'll mute the original one. And if I select something that's got a little bit of everything going on, you'll see when I have something that has more and I play notes, you'll see everything outputting to their own audio channels. And then I can apply my own chains from here. You can just record raw audio from it and then just have whatever you were playing as audio. So it's pretty cool that you can do something like a multi-output out of this plugin and be able to have just even more control over editing later on. So I've already been having some fun kind of designing some of my own patches and stuff like that. So I have this patch here that I've made. I call it Something Brilliant. You can see it's just got the poly and the lead in there. And they're both on full range on the keyboard, so they're just kind of playing together. But what's cool is like down here in the effects section, you can turn on just certain effects for certain elements. So like here we just have the chorus flanger on the lead and the reverberator is on the poly. So now we can get those effects just on a specific voice within this thing, which then just allows you to just do more fun routing shenanigans. And mind you, all of this is packed into a plugin that's only $40. So I mean, this is a ton of fun in here. And even if you don't like the amount of control you have over each independent sound and wish you could like design each individual sound more, even just using this as a sketching tool to just like quickly play one keyboard to play your bass, your polys, and your lead, and just get it all laid down at one, just at least ideate, is even just in and of itself something that's super valuable. But I think the sound that comes out of this thing is pretty cool. It's very like kind of just like quintessential like analog synth sound, and I think it's pretty fun. So that's it for the overview of Quadra. There will be a link down below. It's not an affiliate link, just a link, just cool plugin. Wanted to talk about it. Tomorrow, I will drop the video about making a patch for this, so make sure you press that subscribe button and hit that bell to be notified when that drops. And then the day after that, part 3 will drop, which is making a song in this, which will, all these cards will appear here when they're live. They're everywhere. Click one of them.